morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name is Bill Haddad. I'm the founding president of the Arab American Bar Association of Illinois, established in 1990 with 9 lawyers. We have over 400 now, and we conduct programs from continuing legal education to judicial evaluations and so on. We're a very proud bar association, and thank you for being here today. I'm a retired judge of the Circuit Court of Cook County. So if people call me judge, know I'm retired, okay? And I'm also the chairman of the American Middle East Voters Alliance, the first Arab American political action committee in history of Illinois. With me on the podium today is the very good governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, and we have our Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, as well as our Executive Director of the Illinois Department of Human Rights, Alana Khan, plus other members of our Bar Association and other bar groups, including the CBA, and we thank the Chicago Bar Association for giving us this venue today. It was very kind of them. You know, on September 27th, 2001, I was in this very room talking about the backlash against Arab Americans and Muslims in the United States, covered by the international press and folks like you. And here I am back again. But anyways, it was the Chicago Bar that gave us the venue then, and they're here today. Also, we have our vice president, or incoming president of the Illinois State Bar Association, Sonny Williams, the incoming vice president of the Decalogue Society of Jewish Lawyers, Joe Buckman, the president of the Muslim Bar Association, Ali Al-Sharif, and he is here, and he can take messages. If you want to interview any of these people afterwards, they're going to be available. Maliha Siddiqui from the South Asian Bar, and I know that Whitney Seal is here somewhere from the Women's Bar Association, plus representatives from the Puerto Rican Bar, Hispanic Bar, Asian Bar, and other groups. So welcome and thank you all for being here. Well, today I regret to say that the onslaught of hate crimes against Arab Americans and Muslims is far exceeding what we saw in the aftermath of 9/11, far exceeding what we saw during the presidential primaries in 2016 when there were murders committed in North Carolina and in Texas. We're at a pace now that seems like we're going in that direction. Also, this bar association has grave concern over the onslaught of hate, violence, and hate rhetoric against Jewish Americans. They are our Semitic brothers, as a matter of fact, and sisters. We see fire attacks on synagogues around the world, and we offer our condolences to the family of Samantha Woll, president of the Detroit Synagogue, who was stabbed to death. Now, we don't know what the motive of that was, but we know what the chilling effect of it was, how it just shook our communities to show how fragile the situation is here. So over the course of the last 2 weeks, our Arab American community across the nation has received a great number of death threats, shootings, being chased off highways, verbal and physical assaults on campuses, discrimination in the workplace. This is an accelerating rise of hate violence in America and is fueled by hateful portrayals and dehumanization of Arab Americans. We've seen crime threats and crimes against children, doctors, restaurants and malls, buses, trains, neighborhoods, schools, college campuses, workplace. The tools of hate: talk shows, TV media, newspapers, magazines, social media, Twitter, Facebook, posters, flyers, even digital mobile billboards used to dox people who protest against the war. We've seen violence everywhere. For example, regarding children. We all know of the murder of Wadi al-Fayoum, the young 6-year-old boy who was killed in Plainfield. But we also saw another assault on a 10-year-old boy in Gurney Mills who expressed support for a free Palestine. I told you about doctors being threatened. In Denver, a pediatrician received death threats at her workplace and at home. Callers saying, quote, "We'll kill all the Palestinians," unquote, or, quote, we'll kill your family, end quote. We also know of 3 doctors out in Colorado who were denied patient referrals because of their Palestinian heritage, as reported. In the neighborhoods, we know of a gunman who shot up a family home of Arab Americans in Greenwood, Colorado. In a Palestinian neighborhood nearby, families have been told you need to be beheaded. In Lombard, we know of an Illinois Muslim man who was attacked and told to leave the country. They threatened to shoot him. A Muslim man in another Illinois town was followed and harassed. A letter to a Bridgeview resident was sent to this resident. I can't read all of the profanity, but it read in part, kill, beat, deport forever all of these illegal, dirtbag, mooching aliens in our white-only society. A letter to another Bridgeview resident. Get out of Bridgeview or die. A note that was placed on the door of another Palestinian resident. Muslims will be killed, death to Islam. You need to be beheaded. Many of you know about what happened out in Bridgeview School. All-girls Muslim school was shut down because they received a note that threatened to kill all, quote, black-skinned Muslim children, cut your filthy heads off. Threatened attacks and threatened to rape women. In restaurants and malls, a family ordering food at a Burger King was harassed and threatened. A Muslim restaurant owner in South Jersey came to work to find a torn-up Quran. Heights was subjected to egging due to her faith. Muslim women were harassed at a Walmart while shopping. On college campuses. This is pretty new and disturbing and insidious because we didn't have this back in 2001 or during the primaries in 2016. In Pennsylvania, a man was arrested after yelling slurs and pointing a gun at pro-Palestinian protesters. In Los Angeles, UCLA students who were at a webinar on Gaza were threatened by unidentified men. On campus, other females were attacked and threatened with rape. In Boston, Palestinian Cultural Center for Peace was spray painted with the word Nazi. Philadelphia, a mosque was vandalized with graffiti. But the pressure on universities by mega donors is new. Pressure on Harvard, University of Pennsylvania, and other colleges and universities by mega donors who are threatening. The Arab American Anti-Discrimination Committee said, quote, there is disturbing news, pressure by alumni and donors to universities and law schools to punish schools who tolerate students who demonstrate their views on the conflict. Student professors and student protesters have been threatened with blacklisting, doxing. Now, this governor, thank God, signed an anti-doxing bill. But elsewhere, doxing goes on and on college campuses. What's that? Malicious spread of private information on social media to out and embarrass and blacklist protesters. We're seeing that on Twitter and Instagram. We see pictures of protesters on digital mobile billboards, their private information on posters, and even flyers affixed to telephone poles and walls. It's all been reported. In the workplace, the Washington Post wrote yesterday that a handful of people, including a law student, an airline pilot, and an adult influencer, lost their jobs and faced discipline for their online posts against the war. Employees at companies like Google and Amazon calling for a ceasefire were unfairly censored, according to the Post. An Amazon employee said, a lot of us are dealing with harassment. They're scared to speak out. Just yesterday, Newsweek reported that there was a rally in Minneapolis of 5,000 protesters, and somebody drove a vehicle into that rally. Does that remind you of anything about mishire, which caused an anti-hate bill in federal Congress? The Daily Mail reported yesterday that a gunman was dragged away from a Palestinian demonstration in Skokie accused of shooting a gun in the air, and so on. We are proud to be Arab Americans. We are proud of what we've done for this country. We have fought for this country in every war since World War I to Afghanistan. The first jet ace in Korea was a guy named James Jabara, Arab American. Four-star general, commander of NATO, George Julwan, Arab American. The first teacher in space, although her name is McAuliffe, it's a Lebanese mother, Krista McAuliffe, died on the Challenger, first teacher in space, Arab American. Humayun Khan, a Muslim American soldier who died in Iraq when he thwarted a suicide bomber headed for the mess hall to kill hundreds of soldiers, died serving his country. And then there's Michael Mansour. I wonder if any of you know who he is. A Navy SEAL who served his country in Iraq, who jumped on a grenade, lost his life to protect other Navy SEALs in Iraq, received the Congressional Medal of Honor, Arab American. We're proud of our people, Nobel Prize winners, community activists, humanitarians such as Danny Thomas, who founded St. Jude Children's Research Hospital with other Arab Americans. Danny Thomas's stage name was Danny Thomas. His real name, birth name, was Amos Jacobs Carews. He said about St. Jude's, no child should die in the dawn of life. And we're all grieving for the 6-year-old boy and others. 1,900 that reportedly were killed overseas. The terrible Hamas raid that killed children. We all grieve for children who die in the dawn of life. In conclusion, the Arab American Bar Association of Illinois has some proposals, 6 of them which we wish to announce today. First, that the Biden administration and local government develop pre-constructed strategies to protect the constitutional rights of Arab, Muslims, and Jewish Americans. We request that the Biden administration adopt Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy's proposal to establish a federal hate crimes commission, like the one we have in Illinois established by this governor. Another third proposal is that Chicago and other local governments accelerate their efforts to practice inclusion and diversity by including more minority representation in their administrations now more than ever, and please include Arab Americans. That colleges and universities resist pressure to blacklist and discriminate against Arab American educators and students for exercising their constitutional rights to freedom of speech on campus, and prohibit doxing of student protesters. 5, that employers refrain from discriminating against the rights of Arab American employees because of who they are or because of their exercise of freedom of speech. And finally, 6, we ask that the news media, journalists, talk show hosts, politicians, all who may dehumanize Arab Americans and Jews, dehumanize them for their religion or their background. It's wrong, wrong, wrong. And finally, we implore all sides in the conflict overseas to allow the passage of humanitarian aid, to abate indiscriminate destruction of life and property, to protect journalists, medical personnel, and most importantly, children who we don't want to see die in the dawn of life. Well, that concludes my remarks. I would like to turn the podium over to Governor Pritzker, but before I do want to mention that we are grateful that this governor made a swift and decisive condemnation of the murder of Wadia Fayoum in Plainfield. We are grateful that he's instituted a hate crimes commission and appointed our very own immediate past president, Marvette Swice, to that hate crime commission. That he just signed the amendment to the Illinois Classification Act. Sounds kind of bureaucratic. But every minority was included on this act that created data sets and monitoring minorities, everyone but us. and he added MENA Americans to that. He's the first government official to include the MENA category in all applicants to his office. MENA being Middle East, North African, in case you don't know. And we are grateful to him and his Deputy Chief of Staff, Jordan Abadei, for all that they've done for our community. And at this time, Mr. Governor, would you please?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. Well, thank you for the kind introduction and for welcoming me, and good morning to everyone that joined us today. In the last 2 weeks since the Israel-Hamas war began, here in Illinois, we've seen an alarming increase in anti-Arabism, in Islamophobia, in anti-Semitism, and not just here, but throughout the nation and across the globe. Often in the last week, we have seen that this moment has brought intolerance and bigotry and hatred from other groups, not Jewish or Muslim, but the ones who seek to use this moment to foment attacks upon either or both communities. Online hatred has skyrocketed on every social media platform. Synagogues, mosques, and places of worship have been vandalized and desecrated. And Palestinians, Arabs, and Jews from Chicago to Dearborn to New York City are fielding threats left and right. I am genuinely concerned for people's personal safety. Threats can transform into violence. We've seen that, and we all know it all too well. 2 weeks ago, up north in Glencoe, I met with the family of Hirsch Goldberg Poland, who was severely injured and taken hostage and is being held by Hamas in Gaza. His family is from Illinois. I joined the Palestinian Muslim community in Bridgeview at a funeral and met the grieving family of Wadia al-Fayoumi, a 6-year-old boy who was murdered and taken from his family, whose life has been ended by a right-wing extremist. Wadia didn't worry about what was happening half a world away, but that didn't stop the horror from reaching his doorstep. So now it is clear. It is up to us, those left grieving in the wake of these tragedies, to stand together against the very hatred that took them hostage or killed them, to reject the notion that Muslims and Jews and Palestinians here are responsible for the actions of governments thousands of miles away. And we must honor Wadia and the other innocent people who have been killed by safeguarding the lives of other Palestinians and Jewish people and Arabs who live among us. Hate has no home here in Illinois. It's a phrase I've used time and time again, but hate always has an insidious way of trying to move in if we let it. So we must stand together to reject it. For the Muslim child scared to attend mosque, for the Jewish child scared to attend synagogue, for the Palestinian children and Jewish children from Chicago to Gaza City, to Jerusalem, who think the world is against them. But it's coalitions like the people who are standing here today. It's coalitions like these that give me hope. Where our world has failed, we stand here united, across religions, across ethnicities, to renounce hatred, to show our Muslim and Jewish neighbors in mourning that we stand with them, and to chart a new course, one of solidarity, justice, and humanity. With that, it is my honor to turn the podium over to our great Attorney General, Kwame Raoul.
Thank you, Governor. I want to thank the American Bar Association for inviting me here today to recommit myself and my office's resources to fight against hate against all people. Specifically, the conflict in the Middle East has caused an unacceptable uptick in anti-Arab, anti-Islamic, anti-Semitic rhetoric, and in some instances, criminal violence. We join unequivocally in condemning hate crimes and hate speech, whether it occurs in the workplace, at educational institutions, on social media, or in the community at large. Moreover, we stand ready to respond where appropriate. Our office has used tools of both civil action and criminal prosecution to fight against hate crime. Additionally, with the help of financial support from the Department of Justice, we are engaging in training law enforcement partners to help identify hate crimes when they occur and ensure that these heinous crimes are reported to law enforcement. Historically, we've called on social media platforms to do their part to root out hateful rhetoric that is often spewed on their platforms. We have worked with the United States Secret Service's National Threat Assessment Center to train the public on how to prevent targeted mass violence that may arise from hate. Such acts are often preceded by hateful rhetoric on social media and elsewhere. I've engaged in numerous public forums to educate citizens of various communities, including the Arab American community, of their rights. I do so to contribute to the breaking down barriers and increasing reporting of hate crimes. These forums not only ensure residents know their rights, but also help bridge the gap between community and law enforcement agencies. Any instance of hate should be immediately reported to law enforcement or my office by calling our civil rights hotline at 1-877-581-3692. That's 877-581-3692, or emailing civilrights@ilag.gov. I will continue to ensure that my office uses every tool at our disposal to fight hate speech and hate crimes. You know, it's fitting that we're here at the Chicago Bar Association, where we often gather to refresh our knowledge of the law and sometimes debate the law here in Illinois. One thing that's non-debatable is that the law here in the state of Illinois does not tolerate hate. And as a chief legal officer, nor will I. I thank you, Judge, for this opportunity, and I turn it over to Alana Khan.
Good morning. Thank you, Judge, and the Arab American Bar Association. I am here with you today, a little taller. I'm here with you today, heartbroken, anxious, fearful, personally and for our community, and grieving. We are living through an unprecedented international crisis, and I've come to say, and I feel like turning around when I say it, we see you, and you're not alone. In Illinois, we're fortunate to have many leaders, including Governor Pritzker, Attorney General Raoul, who believe in the safety and wellness and well-being of all of our communities and are tirelessly working to ensure that hate and bias are eradicated in Illinois. That's why I stand with you in solidarity as the new Executive Director of the Illinois Commission on Discrimination and Hate Crimes. The Commission is an active demonstration of Governor Pritzker and the General Assembly's commitment to fighting and preventing hate and bias in Illinois. Newly reactivated, the Commission works to identify and uproot sources of bias and discrimination while assisting in the development of resources, training, and information to allow for swift response to hate-motivated crimes and incidents. And early next year, we will launch a helpline to offer support for people who are affected by hate incidents. This is our top priority. Hate targets people because of who they are or who they're perceived to be. And these incidents are sometimes not criminal, but they always cause harm to individuals and to entire communities. We at the Commission hold a common space where people from different targeted groups come together to weave together a community of interdependence and demonstrated allyship in our diverse community. We must remain, just echoing everything everyone else has said, but we must remain committed to each other, including people who are different from us. We must communicate that hate has no space in our state. These are uncertain and dangerous times. I feel it in my body, and I would guess that a lot of you feel it in your bodies too. But we are not powerless. We can't control what happens across the world, but we certainly have power to do something. We can interrupt hate speech and bigotry when we hear it, especially when it comes from people with whom we're usually aligned. We can do our best to lower the temperature in the community, including the recommendation about media and social media for sure. We can show up for each other, ask after our neighbors, see how they're doing, ask after strangers who often are neighbors who are a little farther away, and we can actively advocate for each other. Even if people in our own communities balk, we must be committed to caring for each other and ensuring a safe community for all of us. Finally, if you're a victim or a witness of a hate crime, please call 911. If you need help reporting or getting the care that you need, contact your local Human Relations Commission. In Chicago, of course, it's the Chicago Commission on Human Relations, or a social service agency who can help. You know, sometimes people are afraid to report hate crimes for good reason, and there are services out there that can walk with people through the process. And if you believe you're a victim of discrimination in any way, contact the Illinois Department of Human Rights. Our fates are inextricably bound to each other. All of that hideous list that was hard to hear shows us that we are dependent on each other. Muslims, Jews, Christians, and people of all faiths and ethnicities. Let the violence of recent days be a call to action to protect each other and together build the kind of community that we all deserve. And with that, I invite Governor Pritzker back to the podium for questions.
Happy to take questions from members of the media. Not yet. That is my hope. They are, as you know, they're still being treated and with the Israelis, and so once they're on a plane headed home, I think we'll have an opportunity.
However, do we need stronger tools here to help fight hate speech? Or do we need stronger penalties for those who commit such crimes?
We need stronger action in our communities to stand up against hate speech and hate crime. That's what we need. We have very strong laws. I mean, perhaps the folks behind me have suggestions about things that we could do in Illinois, but we have been very proactive. If you compare us to nearly every other state, we are fighting hate crime and hate speech as best we can. Again, I'm open to ideas, but it is up to all of us, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, it's important for us all to be standing together in sending this message to people. Look out for one another. I know that sounds so simple, and you'd like us to have some, you know, force that would effectuate all of that in every community, but everybody needs to stand up for, you talked about the neighbor and the stranger who's just your neighbor's neighbor. We all need to be doing that in every community and speaking out in favor of working together and uniting against hate.
Governor, do you have concerns that things escalate in Israel, if, for example, there's a provocation, that could lead to even greater acts of hate or violence here?
Of course, I have concern about all the potential outcomes and how that will affect people here in the state of Illinois. That's why I think we all need to, you know, take the temperature down as best we can here. I realize there are things happening half a world away. that affect people's reactions, emotional and otherwise. But again, we live here. We are all neighbors with one another. Illinoisans stand up for one another, and as I said, hate has no home here.
Governor, recently the president has come out and reiterated his support for a two-state solution to the issues in Israel-Palestine. Do you agree with him on that? And do you think obviously there needs to be some sort of long-term settlement to these issues in order to help people?
Let me just say, I helped to build a Holocaust museum here in Illinois. I believe strongly that we need to be focused on how we are managing here in Illinois and across the United States hate and our reaction to it here, and how we will work with one another to protect one another. That's my focus. I realize there are people in international diplomatic circles that are making, having discussions with one another, making plans, but my focus is on the safety and security of the people of Illinois.
Given what happened in Skokie yesterday, there's another rally planned for this afternoon out in Federal Plaza. As this continues, these demonstrations in public are going to continue. What is the state doing, what will local authorities do to keep people safe?
Well, of course, we protect people's right to free speech, but we do not protect violence. If you intend to go out and commit a violence, do not even think of it, because we have law enforcement on duty and paying close attention. But the truth is that people nonviolently raising their voices is just fine. But I will remember and remind everybody that keeping the temperature down is very important as we go through this period.
Governor, the governor of Florida has already gone on the campaign trail and said, I will not be taking any migrants from the Gaza area in the state of Florida. How do you feel about that? And would Illinois, being the welcoming state that we are, be willing to take refugees?
He's running a political campaign. I mean, that isn't even something that's being discussed by anybody. He is just trying to get attention and, in his failing campaign, trying to revive it. Thank you.
I want to thank the Governor, the Attorney General, Ms. Khan, and all who are here today to show support for the rule of law, and that I want to thank the press for being here today, because only you can bring this message to other people to stop the violence, to enforce the rule of law. So thank you all very much.